Welcome, 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 everyone. Welcome to another edition of Remixing Politics and Culture with me, your host, Pam. I am a public relations and marketing professional with a passion for social justice, voter advocacy, and culture. And tonight, we're going to discuss, amidst all of our frustration, anger, and yes, fear, the fear and concern about the dismantling of our federal government, which even if you don't work in the federal government, there is a trickle down of impact to everything that is happening on a national level. If you're like me, angry, overwhelmed, confused, and wanting to know what on earth do we do next, I decided to call on a friend. He's not a stranger to the show, and his knowledge of history and the law make him the perfect person to talk to tonight. I am pleased to bring up on stage the Charles Hamilton Endowed and Professor of Irving from North Central University in Durham, North Carolina. Okay, we got a little bit of feedback here. Okay, Professor June is an expert in civil rights and criminal law. He provides legal counsel to religious and community organizations. Professor June has served a 5-year term as the vice chairperson of the 1898 Wilmington Race Rights Commission and has served on numerous other and commissions. Welcome back to the show, Professor Joyner.
Thank you for the invitation, Pam, and I'm just happy to be here to engage in this obviously heavyweight conversation with you this evening.
Yes, and we have some people chiming in saying hello and all of this good stuff. So hello, everyone. Okay. All right. So, Professor, so much has happened since we last talked, and that's just been a couple of days ago. You know what, Professor Joyner? I tell you what, when I'm talking, you mute, and then unmute when you answer, and that makes feedback. Okay. All right. Okay. So, so much has happened since we last spoke just a few days ago, but we're going to get into those headlines a little bit later into the show. I titled this show, We Have Seen This Before, which is partially true due to the actions taken by Trump and its impact upon Black folks and other marginalized groups. Professor, with the mass firings of federal workers, and I've done the statistics, 19% of the federal workers consider themselves Black or African American. And we only make up like 12.2% of the total population. So that's a heavy thing. The elimination of DEI, also known as get rid of qualified generals, top officials in military, if they are female or Black. How, Professor, I'm giving you a earful all at once. How can all of this be legal? Go ahead and unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm back. The legality of many of the things that's going on is in question. If you look at precedent and you look at the law as it has been interpreted up until this time, much of what's happening is illegal. And in fact, most of what is happening is illegal. And we find ourselves in a situation where the new administration is attempting to expand and reinterpret the laws that we know, particularly those laws governing the constitutional framework of our democracy. And they are testing out everything that that would destroy what we know of as the democracy. And it is a planned effort that was energized in large part by a U.S. Supreme Court decision, which said that a president, more particularly Donald Trump, had immunity that would allow him to do virtually anything that he wanted to do, and that if there was some disenchantment about what he was doing, then Congress had the responsibility of impeaching him. But as long as he was the president, he basically had unbridled authority to do anything that he wanted to do within the name of presidential powers, and those things that would flow from his position as being the commander-in-chief and the highest official in the executive branch of government. And in that regard, he is trying it all out. We saw the promise of the 2025 document that was prepared that talked about challenging every agency of government with a view toward streamlining and even firing all of the federal employees. And as you indicated earlier, a large percentage of those are African Americans, particularly those who are in the DC area. And so that's what we have going on. And it is incumbent upon those individuals who are in positions of power to challenge just that. We have a distinction between those powers exercised by the federal government and those powers which are reserved for state governments, because there is still this notion of state rights, where each state has the major control, or is supposed to have major control of its affairs and protection of its citizens. But now the federal government is so intertwined with state operations that the federal government can have an undue impact on what is happening at the state level. And by example, I look at the Department of Education, where the Department of Education has provided funding for educational efforts in every state in the country.
Right.
And you have now a presidential edict which seeks to outlaw DEI, and the commandment that if a state does not destroy or curtail efforts toward DEI, that the funding that that state receives through the Department of Education will be withdrawn. And so you have a unholy alliance now between what is going on at the federal level and its impact on what is available to happen at the state level. So we've not run into this particular situation previously, but in kind, we know that we have to fight it at both the state level and at the federal level.
So there was a question in the chat, and I'm going to read it. It says, Professor Joyner, please explain what it means, what the states' rights means, and what it means to us. I think she means us, meaning Black folks. And then she says, past history, please. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it goes back to the comment I made about the state governments having its own constitution, its own governmental structure, and the right to control affairs within that state. And it was one of the things that caused or resulted in the Civil War, where the southern states, under the guise of states' rights, wanted to continue slavery and fought for the right to continue slavery in the South. And that is something that they have regularly promoted, was that the federal government does not have control over those internal affairs of the states. Mm-hmm. We are now in a situation, ironically, where the federal government now has more control over what is going on in the states, that it is the descendants of slaves who are now promoting this notion of states' rights, as opposed to the racists and the Confederates who are now promoting this notion of federal rights, where federal rights control. And that was an example of that, was the intertwining of funding for the educational efforts in the various states, and the large influence that the Department of Education has over what happens in the state because of the dollars that they provide, and the threatened withdrawal of those dollars has caused educational officials at the state level to cow down to anything that Donald Trump and his Trumpettes decide that they want to promote. And it is that kind of danger that we're in right now, where we have to fight against all of this right-wing expansionism directed from the federal level. But unfortunately, what we have is almost a complete takeover of the entire governmental structure by these right-wing fanatics. When you look at the Supreme Court and the judicial branch, you see that takeover being very obvious. When you look at Congress and what it is that the majority party is doing in Congress in support of Trump and the Trumpettes, you see the same thing. So you have three branches of government that are in sync with the idea of promoting a very radical right-wing takeover of the democracy that we have, and that takeover is designed to destroy the democracy as we know it today. But just like we did in days of old, we have to fight back against it, because if we don't fight back against it, then it will be imposed upon us. Even if we do fight back and lose, at least we're fighting back, trying to ensure that our people are protected, because only a democratic government is going to enforce the rules and regulations that we find to be progressive and beneficial to our people in this country. And to the extent that we feel that it's a losing battle, then we've already lost. But we have to have hope, as in the past, that we will be able to overcome these attacks that have always been directed toward us, and we've always been in a position to respond positively to those challenges, and in the long term prevail.
Okay. Renee Shaw asks a question. She says she thanks you for your expertise. She says, do you think SCOTUS will uphold his defiance, meaning Trump, of the judicial branch at this point, even if it means neutering their own powers? What do you think?
And that's a great question. And that's one of those things that's open now, and we will have to find out. But the only way that we will find out is by promoting these legal challenges to go to the Supreme Court for them to make a decision. You have to also remember now that it was the U.S. Supreme Court that came up with this immunity for Trump and the Trumpettes to do what it is that they are now trying to do. And so what we are doing is calling upon them to draw back or refrain or restrict the actual meaning of the words that they provided in that decision that gave the president this kind of hosted immunity to do anything it was that they wanted to do. And that is what Donald Trump is trying to do today, is everything that they can think of, that they can throw at us, that's what they are doing.
Right. So Karen asks, what can contempt orders do?
Well, they sound good, except if they are issued, then the executive branch is in charge of enforcing them. So you can have a contempt order that holds officials in contempt for disobeying some judicial decision. But in the final analysis, it is the Trump administration that is in a position will have to be in a position to enforce that contempt. And in all respects, that's the enemy in this situation. So we have the fox guarding the hen house in this regard. So we can't really expect that those who inflict this damage on the democracy is now going to turn around and be the savior of this democracy.
All right. And Renee is on a roll tonight. Okay. She wants to know, do you think Elon's and Trumpsters' undoing will be that they are cutting agencies, i.e. the Department of Energy, that will have a shattering of effect on the MAGA base?
You know, that's an interesting question, because one of the things that I think some of the right-wing conservative in the government are now seeing is that whatever is done to attack African Americans has an adverse impact on many members of the MAGA base. And that is causing them some disconcerting, causing them to rethink some of the things. But the question is, how fast will they move to shore up or bring back or to rein Trump and the Trumpettes in? I don't think that they will. I think that Donald Trump is uncontrollable at this point. And he has surrounded himself with Elon Musk, who is a South African from the old apartheid regime.
Right.
One of the old apartheid families that got rich off of the bodies of our brothers and sisters in South Africa, enslaved them for years, and that they are now trying to carry this apartheid notion into the United States, where he acts as if he has more knowledge about how the democratic process is going to work, and he's only been a citizen for a week and a half now. So in all practical forces, we have the ultra right wing from all over the world now joining in with the Trumpettes to destroy those things that we hold near and dear, and that's necessary for our continued peaceful existence here in this country.
Right. Professor Joyner, our civil rights movement was focused, organized, impactful. How they managed to mobilize and do all that they did without email, social media, or anything. All they had was the regular snail mail, the telephone, and that's it, really, and word of mouth. But the big mainstay was the church. The big rock was the church, because that was the central area in which you can get masses of people to communicate to. Now it feels like our legacy organizations are not sounding the alarm. At least they're not loud enough and they're not aggressive enough. I'm just now seeing some things mentioned on with the NAACP on social media. I've just now seen information about the legal defense fund of the NAACP, because as far as I was concerned, it seemed like they had given up all of that to Attorney Crump. You know, I'm serious. I know you. I know you laughing, but for real, Professor Joyner, it's like they abdicated everything to the Black Attorney General. That's what they call. That's what they call them. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Ben Crump has been a great warrior in this campaign. The League of Defense Fund has been around forever and continues to do outstanding work. But the laborers are few. We need more people joining with them in challenging some of these things that are going on, both at the federal level and at the state level. We don't have.
Are they? Do they not have a pool of lawyers or that they hire? How does that How does that work?
Well, it's the combination. The Legal Defense Fund has a staff of people who are located around the country. And those staff attorneys will work with local communities to bring litigation and challenges in court. But the impact is dependent upon cooperation from local attorneys in the states, who will have to also work with them more often than not in a pro bono capacity to advance the legislation that is going on. But you have, and I think we need to be clear on this. Many African American lawyers are not engaged in civil rights litigation, nor do they want to be. And the vast majority of attorneys who are engaged in civil rights work are whites. And they cooperate with the Legal Defense Fund, which is a multiracial organization. And what we need is to, I guess, as Teddy Pendergrass will say, wake up everybody, particularly these lawyers out here, to get them on in the campaign to fight for our rights, because their very existence is dependent upon resisting some of these things that's going on, or all of these things that's going on now in our country. But as I said, the laborers are few, and we have to expand those people who are engaged in the fight, because it gets to be tiring. When you are having to run all over the state or all over the country, litigating cases from courtroom to courtroom, and there is no relief for you in sight. So there are a lot of things that needs to be done that we need to become actively involved in. I just want to run one other point as to the church. I hold the same position as it relates to them. They are some that's ready to challenge. They are faith leaders in our community who are pushing for ongoing boycotts of these businesses that are denouncing DEI. But too many of these churches are sitting around doing the singing and praying and collecting money that they use for their own purposes, rather than becoming community conscious. And so we're going to have to wake up that community and get them involved. And typically that involvement comes through the membership of those congregations to make the ministerial leadership join this campaign. So there are a lot of things that we need to be doing, but we also need to recognize that that there is an imperative for us to move quickly, because what is happening on the other end is like a full court press all over the place, directed at our rights.
Right. Absolutely. Zach asked, would you say that the coup is complete? Because this is definitely a coup that we're in. I don't care what anybody says.
It's underway. Clearly, the coup is underway. I don't think it's complete. I think that there are a lot of ways that we can fight it and resist it and win in the end. But if we don't move quickly, then the coup will be complete. And I look at, for instance, I don't know what the report is about the results of last Friday. To see how many of our people refuse to go to Walmarts and Targets and all of these other big box stores to boycott those efforts. And one day clearly isn't enough to have any impact, but certainly a report on what happened on Friday is an indication of how much work we need to do. But if we're going to be engaged in this economic battle, that needs to be one that is ongoing. Some churches now talking about a 40-day campaign, but our campaign that we're involved in has to be 365. And if it's less than 365, then we are taking a vacation to our detriment.
Right. I totally agree with you. All right, Shoei. Okay. You've been fighting ever since. All right. And she's wondering, will we ever overcome? We
will if we continue. But, that's one of the problems that I see is that we achieved victories in the past. Or in the last 50 years, we have seen tremendous progress. And in that progress, people were blind to the necessity of having to continue the battle. Because while we were resting on our laurels, other people were trying to figure out how to pull the rug out from under those victories that we had won. And so we need to, be more engaged and more vigilant, more active in countering all of these challenges that we face. Because I think Livonia Allison always raised the question, who's going to save us but us?
That's right.
And if we're not engaged in saving ourselves, no one else is going to step up and save us from what we perceive now to be our enemies.
Right. That's absolutely right. Renee had put in the comments about, isn't there some kind of way to stop Elon because he's technically just a regular citizen? He is, first of all, the dude is an immigrant, and his brother even said that they were illegal, that they had done, that they didn't obey the rules of their green card or whatever it was that they had to come over here to study or whatnot. And is there some way to subpoena him to get him? Let me see, look at, because it was so big, I don't want to put all the here on here. If there was some way, even on the state level, to file people versus Elon suits, can we stop, eliminate some of what is happening, and then deal with Trumpster later?
Well, if we look at the legal rules that govern litigation, then the average citizen cannot do that. What we need to do is press our members of Congress, our members in the U.S. Senate to raise challenges from their perspective, because there's this thing called standing in the litigation realm. And general voter or citizen's complaints does not give a person standing to go into court. So we end up with a kind of Dred Scott decision where you don't have standing to bring the claim. But if we press our elected officials, particularly the African Americans and Hispanics and other racial minorities, along with white allies, to begin to challenge it from the legislative branch of government, then that is where this challenge has to occur and where it is likely to be most successful. But we have so many people that in elected positions that are afraid to speak out. And if they won't speak out, we need to get rid of them and put somebody else in those positions, because at a time like this, we don't need people to be reluctant to raise the issue and stand up. And if they won't stand up, we ought to stand them out. And we're not doing that, because we like them too much, but they are in a position that they need to be raising holy hell where they are, because if we lose this battle, then they won't be in those positions.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. Emily says this process is not a sprint, but a marathon. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I agree. I agree with that. And, again, we have too many people who act as if they're here for vacation, that this is the time to be laying back on the Caribbean beaches, trying to enjoy life rather than to fight to ensure that we have life. And we need to engage them and challenge them, but we also need to be leaders in our community to show people that there is victory if we stand up, because there will not be victory if we don't stand up.
So Jennifer asked the question, Professor Joyner, how do you suggest that we fight? I think she wants to see if you have some specifics.
Well, I think we start just on a minor level at home with our family members and helping to educate them about what is going on. Then we work to organize our communities and help to educate people in the community about what is going on. And then leading the battle, whether that be in the form of demonstrations, whether that be in the form of boycotts, whether that's in the form of letters to the editor or challenges at the court level, both at the state level and at the national level. All of those things together, we're going to have to engage in. But it means that we all have to become activists. And we can't afford to sit back and allow Trump and the Trumpettes and those allies that they have to move through this process unchallenged along the way. And that starts right here in North Carolina. Where we have a whole lot of crazy shenanigans going on that we need to lift up and rise up and raise holy hell wherever we are to challenge the destruction of democracy here in this state. So those are just some of the things that I see. And obviously there are many more things that we can be doing, but those are starting points that I think that we need to pay attention to.
Right, absolutely. So, Professor, one of the things that we're seeing blatant in our face, and I would say that ever since the rise of Trump came, more people have gotten emboldened to be racist in your face. It used to be they might have done it behind your back, but they weren't up front and central in your face. So now in Ohio, predominantly Black area, I can't remember the main city right now, in Ohio, these white supremacists went marching with their flags and their masks and all that. They're never bold enough to show their whole faces. And what did the Black people do? They came out with their guns, and they started acting like they were their own neighborhood militia. So, and it reminded me, the pictures that I saw reminded me of the Black Panther times when they came out with their, they're all black on and weaponry and what have you. I'm by nature, I'm a pacifist and I hate guns and all of that type of thing. But do you think that that's something that we're probably going to see more and more of? Maybe the fruit of Islam rises up again and comes out in the streets or something?
Well, in any struggle, you have to have enforcers and defenders. Long before there was the Black Panthers. There was the Deacons for Self-Defense. All over the Deacons for Self-Defense.
Okay.
All over the South. Many of them church people, ministers and deacons and trustees at the churches who had guns and would come out in the community when there was the threat of that community being invaded by the Klan. And it was those actions and those responses that stopped the Klan from coming into these communities. Right here in North Carolina, you had indigenous communities down in Robeson County that came out with guns and ran the Klan out of Robeson County in the 1950s, and they haven't been back there since, having rallies and burning crosses and things like that. And I'm always reminded by the old Stokely Carmichael notion that it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. In that, because we know that there are more guns owned by people in the United States than there are people in the country. And there are people who have stockpiles of weapons looking for the opportunity to engage in the coming civil war that they want to promote. And we don't need to be defenseless in any number of areas. And one of those areas obviously is having the necessary equipment and artillery to protect ourselves, because we cannot depend on our enemy to protect us from our enemy. So we have to be prepared for it. Even if it's deemed that it's not necessary in going forward, at least we're in a position that if it becomes necessary, that we're not caught asleep and without some means of retribution.
All right. All right. Yes, Karen, we can definitely, these town halls are getting mighty spicy. Some people, some of those Republicans are canceling town halls, and they're running out of them because they're getting booed so loudly. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. You know, and we need to do the same thing. We need to bring our people out and help them to understand and see what is going on. It's a cry that we dealt with during the civil rights days. In the 50s and the 60s, you know, we constantly had to bring people into the fight by helping to explain to them how they were being impacted and that there was a way to have a better day and to have protection and progressive movements in this country. And that's why we won the battles that we've won. But, you know, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of people. And we have to go out here with some whips and put people in line so that they are out there fighting the battle. And some people won't fight because they don't think that they can win. But if you show victories, then more people are willing to come out and join the fight.
Right. And this is something I was going to ask him, Renee, about. Do you think that the Democrats should boycott Trump's joint, you know, what do you call that address? You know, his address to the nation, which is really going to be, because he all he knows how to do is rally, you know, and before Congress. Do you think the Democrats, I think they'd send a very strong message if they all didn't show up.
Well, they send a strong message whether they show up or not. I would like to see them show up and turn their backs on him as he's making the speech, or to sit there and, like Nikita Khrushchev did back in the days, take their shoes off and pound on the counters to interrupt the speech, to have some show of defiance that's going on. And that's what we need. We need to show defiance, and that we are not going to lay down and accept what it is that they're trying to do to us, because if we demonstrate that we are afraid or that we don't care, then they are going to be emboldened to come after us, because they don't think that there'll be a response.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Showing Howie is in a very red area of Michigan, Professor Joyner, and she's got this. She's Caucasian, and she says she's fed up with buying from you. She's trying to get other people to buy from blacks and other minorities and stuff. Joining this will increase their visibility and eager potential customers. This is a boycott. You mentioned financial issues. How can the racial gap be bridged? Girl, if we had an answer for that, we would all be rich right now.
Well, I certainly agree that we need to have economic empowerment within our community. We need to have people in our community supporting business interests within our community, and then we need to expand that base. We need to have some more people like Reggie Lewis with the Beatrice Foods. From back in the 70s that he created. We need to expand the reach of organizations like Essence and Ebony and Jet, all businesses, and then the Black Press. We need to promote that. You can't find people now with subscriptions to the African American print media, and BET has been a sellout in very many respects. But we need to promote economic independence, economic strength within our community, and with a focus on closing the gap. Because if we don't close the gap, then we will be the victim of the gap. So I certainly agree with the notion that that is one of many things that we need to be doing.
Yeah, you know what, Professor? I do like that idea of us disrupting that the Democrats disrupted. They got to think of a classy way, be a little classy based in how they do it, as the kids would say. I don't know what, but we need to do something. Yeah, and State of the Union address. Listen, you see how much I'm not that thrilled about it. I forgot the name. Yeah. But the disruption needs to happen. Absolutely.
Yeah, and we are a powerful people.
Yes.
You mentioned earlier that we're basically 13% of the total population in this country. Yet your statistics show that 19 to 20% of the federal workforce is composed of African Americans, and then when you add other people of color, that number goes up. So we are in the position of helping America to become, in every respect, what it is today. DC is being decimated.
Yes.
What Donald Trump is doing there with the various agencies, and I don't know whether those people are turning tails and running out, or if they are, but they need to be encouraged to fight back where they are, because the next one of the items on the Trump agenda is to take over DC. To make it into an enclave where the population there are beholding to him and those people who support him. And now you have we have the disruption of the economic market in D.C. The housing market is going kaput there based on the loss of jobs and threatened loss of jobs that people have where they can't pay the mortgages that they have on the houses that they live in. So you're going to have an economic calamity right there in D.C. And many of them are upper class, well educated, highly educated, and they don't recognize the harm that's walking down 14th Street right now, directed toward them. So you know, everybody has to get on board and become a part of this effort.
That makes sense, though. I just saw a video of the governor of Maryland. Can't get his name out right now. He was talking about he was trying to forge out some plans because he has a large number of federal workers, and of course in Virginia, OMG, we talked about that last Sunday night about Virginia. They were trying to that they have a Republican governor, and he really hasn't come up with any tangible plans because, I mean, it's just going to annihilate them because mostly everybody commutes from Virginia into DC to work.
Yeah, the DMV, Wes Moore is the person that you're talking about, who is the governor of Maryland and is doing an outstanding job. They obviously are will be impacted by what is going on in D.C. because a large percentage of that population is working in the DMV, more particularly in the capital, and that's why you can't even drive there between 8 and 10 in the morning and between 3 and 6 in the evening. But you know, he is in a position, and I think, from what I understand, that he is trying to come up with some countermeasures to what is happening there in that area. The governor of Virginia, obviously a Republican, is not inclined to do that. So other people there, particularly elected officials, those other positions of power, there need to be willing to stand up and make the governmental effort pay for itself and challenge those things that's going on, and it's we have to fight. I mean, it becomes just that clear to me. If we're not willing to fight, then we're not willing to win.
Absolutely. And you know what I saw just earlier today, I saw the promo on MSNBC about the joint speech that he's supposed to make to in Congress is coming up this week or whatever. And every last
You mean the State of the Union?
No, it's actually, you know, Renee corrected us on that. She said it's actually called the Joint Address of Congress. But at any rate, let me get back to this. So what I saw on the screen, it was all Caucasian people. There was no diversity there. None. And it was shocking to see, because that's the one thing that I always liked about MSNBC, because you had a different flavors of people, and hence you have, you know, it just makes for a much more interesting show when everybody doesn't look or like you and stuff. It just makes it interesting.
Well, two points, I guess, to that. One is that is the plan, is to get rid of us in all of these positions of power, these positions of influence, these positions of visibility that's there. And what we have is a situation where many of the businesses and companies and other interests that at least would have a showing of African Americans are now operating where they don't need to do that anymore. And but the other side of that is that we have an increasing number of African Americans and people of color who are vocal supporters of Trump and the Trumpettes.
I know. I saw a lady talking about how strong of a man Trump is, and I just like that. And got Biden had everybody here walking around like they was some girl, and he got Zelensky told, which brings me back to that whole headline that I really wanted to get into. We got to get into this. First of all, I think it was, I'm getting my weeks and days mixed up. It just had to be last week where I saw this article. Well, it was a snippet of an article on a meme. And then I read the full article of the 71-year-old retired Russian spy, talk about how Trump was recruited in 1987 because they were looking to recruit American capitalists for information and things like that, and who would be vulnerable. And they found that Trump was one of their guys, and they called him Krasnov. And this was in 1987. Trump was 40 years old, et cetera, et cetera. Then the next thing I saw was a full-blown article talking about his interesting trip to Moscow in 1987. I say all that to say now we've got a second person that's come out, another spy, retired spy, who confirmed what the 71-year-old spy has said. And we even have the spokesperson, and I'm going to share my screen, Professor. I'm going to share. Hold on. Share screen. Let's see, which one is it? Okay, here it is. You see it, Professor Joyner?
Yes, I see it.
It says Kremlin says U.S. foreign policy shifts aligns with its own vision. And this guy, what is it? He's what is this guy's name? Yeah, it's making it really official, but I recognize this guy. I can't see what his proper name is, but if you probably recognize his face because they don't really change up their people at all, to be honest. But they're just saying the quiet part out loud. It's just, I mean, it's really bizarre to see this. And on top of all of that, Professor Joyner, what's even crazier is that in the White House, when Zelensky was there, they had somebody from the Russian news media in the White House. Meanwhile, the Associated Press and Reuters have been kicked out, but the Russian press is there. And I'm like, how does this happen? Because you got to pass all kinds of credentials and stuff to get into the White House like that. The Russians got in, but the AP and Reuters had to stay out. How make it make sense?
Well, I can't make it make sense because it doesn't make sense, except there is obviously the understanding that there is a new sheriff in town. Mm-hmm. And that new sheriff is Donald Trump and his crew. And they are kowtowing or obviously collaborating with the Russian government to spread their influence from around the world, and particularly here in the United States. Donald Trump is promoting this gold card to sell a path to citizenship for rich people, which would include oligarchs from Russia and other places as a way to enhance somebody's pockets It's not going to enhance our pockets. And then you have at the top of the governmental structure here in this country a bunch of vipers who are attempting to siphon off for themselves monies from the federal coffers. You look at Elon Musk, who has been enriched by monies and contracts that he has with the American government. And he is a newly minted citizen, but for years he has been sucking up funds from the American government that's made him the richest man in the world,
And we never
and
done
seeking
this
to do more.
before. Yeah, it's too much, really too much. So Yvette Thompson had asked the question about what did you have to say about the U.S. siding with Russia and North Korea against Ukraine. I hadn't heard the North Korea part. I hadn't heard them being mentioned in the discussion at all, really, to be honest.
Well, when you look at the fact that the North Koreans have sent soldiers, military people, over to Russia to fight against Ukraine, then it merges together. But clearly, there is a political movement and force going on in the world today that's seeking to undermine progressive countries, progressive notions, progressive politicians, and to replace them with dictators and oligarchs in control. And here in this country, the rich community or the community of financial means trying to utilize its power to undermine the democracy for all of the people, and the people are being hoodwinked into supporting their own demise. And that's where we are today, because when you look at the leadership of these federal agencies, those people come right out of the 1%. Or supported heavily by the 1%, such that the rest of us are now sucking wind and trying to stay alive and try to stay afloat here in this country. And again, if there is not a popular uprising of challenges, of resistance to what is going on, then we're going to be here next year talking about how they got over on us.
I don't even know what to think anymore. It's just like, what in the world? Oh goodness. Judge Ho in New York doesn't pin off. Okay, she's talking about what's happening there. Okay, specific. This is specific to African Americans with the SAVE Act. They want to marginalize, disenfranchise, and ignore women in general, and make voting very difficult for anyone not a white male. Yeah, they want the Handmaid's Tale back. They want it so that you just, Vance literally said from his mouth that he wants to see America have more babies. Talk it over with your wife, okay? I mean, that's none of our business.
Yeah, well, look at all of the female support that's been garnered and gathered by this same group of people. We people don't think that this is what they are going to do. Mm-hmm. Now we see that what they said that they meant. Mm-hmm. Many of us knew that going into this last election, right. But increasingly, those people who will be disenfranchised and oppressed were the ones who joined in the campaign because they didn't want Joe Biden and the weak Democrats to be in control anymore. That they wanted somebody who was a strong man, as you said
Yes,
earlier,
yeah.
not knowing that this was someone who was trying to enrich themselves and their family members and people who are in their support group. And that is not the group that we find ourselves in. And those misguided people who think that they can support and stay on top are just deceived and have become enemies to their own people.
Renee brought up I saw this too and posted it about the Norway is saying, excuse me, we will not be supplying your U.S. submarine ships, and we will not be fueling them. So deuces, go find someone else to do it. And boy, when Zelensky got in there and he told them, he says, you will feel this too. You will, what happens to us will impact you, was what he was trying to express. And Trump started yelling then, remember that? You don't tell me how we're going to feel. You can't do this or whatever. And this is the very thing. So I don't know I don't even pretend to know anything about the military, but I'm thinking if Norway is doing it, who else gonna do it? I mean, it's probably, that's a very complex type of thing to do to fuel a submarine.
Yeah, well, it seems that clearly that there is a change in the world order that we're dealing with today. That the leadership of the United States is now moving to be supportive of dictatorial regimes around the world. And those allies that we have always depended upon and shouted about are no longer being supported by this country. And that is going to be the case continuing if we don't change how this country is moving, which will be a big battle because Trump is still in office for the next three years and 10 months.
We can't, Professor, it's been barely a month and we are drowning. We are drowning. We don't have 3 years to give him.
Well,
I tell you something, Professor. Remember when you told me the other day when we were at North Carolina Central and you said, Pam, you talking Tyler Perry stuff. Remember when you said that? you laughing at me. But guess what, Professor Joyner? Somebody, there's a commentator on YouTube. I don't know his name. He's from Britain because there's a thick accent. And he says, it is time, just like I said to you, Professor, he said, Obama, Bush, Biden, and Clinton, all of those presidents need to get together because they still get intelligence and information. They see that the country is burning down and aligning with a dictator, and they know what that means. He said that they need to do unconventional stuff, which would be totally unconventional, meddling into his business, but his business is the nation's business, the world's business. And he said that all of those presidents need to get together. Like I told you, you said it was Tyler Perry. He was saying the same thing I was saying, Professor.
Yeah. And I remember that conversation that we had. I agree that we need to do something. We need to do everything, and we need to do it quickly. And we cannot just sit back and expect that things are just going to turn out right by our sitting around waiting for these people with hardened hearts to come to our rescue. And so everyone that we can engage in this battle from the top to the bottom, we need to engage them as quickly as possible because things are moving forward in a very in faster than anything that I have ever seen in my life in this country. And before we know it, we're going to be a victim of the Trump tsunami.
Yeah. I don't even know. Renee's talking about there are some special House elections and stuff, but it feels like nothing can happen fast enough. You know,
and I agree with Renee that yeah, we need to do that. We need to challenge in these special elections coming up. We need to prepare for the 2 years election, the midterm elections that's coming up. We need to do it all. You know, this is not a one horse show.
Yeah,
you know, because we are being attacked from every position that we find ourselves in, and our response has to be as comprehensive as is the attack that's directed against us.
Wow, I just, David, I don't think that all presidents are puppets. I don't think so. Someone we don't know is in control. I don't know. I don't know, Professor. I don't know. What would you leave us with to tell us? Listen, I know what I wanted to ask you because I had all these notes. With all of this disruption that's happened, how do you think it's possible for us to re-put things back together again if it doesn't wait too long for us to do it? Because the damage has been done, no doubt.
I think it's possible to bring us together and to do the kinds of things that we need to do to resist these efforts that's directed against us at this point. Nothing at this point is finalized, but clearly things are moving forward at a very rapid pace. Therefore, our response will have to move forward at a very rapid pace, and we need to bring together people as quickly, as often, and as far as we can, so that we can begin to put up some blocks to these things that's going on. And a part of that is trying to figure out exactly what our strategies should be. And no strategy ought to be off the table. Right. We ought to look at every one of them, and every one that we can work with, we should engage in it. Because if we don't, then we're going to be swept under with this tidal wave that's headed in our directions.
Yeah. You know, because some smart aleck in the North Carolina state legislature is thinking about doing a Doge type of thing in North Carolina, and I think that they're thinking about replicating that type of thing, but they don't understand. Don't you understand? I mean, there's always stuff that you can get rid of that doesn't make sense, but it's going to impact you one way or the other, no doubt about it.
Yeah, well, my thing is that what we see today is the result of a plan that has been in place and has been implemented for a long period of time to put people in positions of power that they can now support this effort to pull, as was described earlier, pull this coup against this democracy that we're in. It has been a calculated campaign that has resulted in a Donald Trump being the president, a conservative right-wing legislators in Congress and in our state government, as well as right-wing zealots in the judicial branch of government. We look at the Supreme Court, that is a replica of this right-wing agenda. We look at the North Carolina Supreme Court, and it is exactly the same thing. where it is controlled by people who care absolutely nothing about protecting our democracy, but want to impose their absolute power over government and every aspect of life in the United States. But that was a campaign that took some time for it to be put in place, and it didn't start just with Donald Trump. It has been going on for a long time. So the effort to dismantle that is going to be something that will have to go on for a long time.
Mm. David, I want to know this too. Why do you think the only reason why the past presidents haven't said anything because of standing of how normally how past presidents behave? They don't get interfere, but I think the house is on fire. So if they all came together, that makes good common sense to me.
Yeah, well, we need to help them to understand that, because the practices of old and the traditions of old will have to be cast aside as we respond to the emergency that we are facing here today.
Right. We got to do something. Yeah, it's just something. Well, I have enjoyed you as always, Professor Joyner. We went over time too. It's 10 after 9. And I thank you guys in the audience for your engagement. You were very, very active, and we just have to do something. We know we can at least call this number and get on people's cases. I'm going to put it in the chat. I know it by heart because I call it. You can call it anytime. One time I heard they got so many phone calls. This is the U.S. Congress switchboard number 2. Oh, wait. I put it in wrong. It's 202. Let me do it again. Let me take that down. It's 202 02 224 3121. Okay, it's going up. Okay, there. 202-224-3121. That is the U.S. Congress switchboard, and you can call at any time. Just say who it is you want to speak to. Be organized for who you want to talk to, and you can leave a message for those Congress people. Okay. All right. And stay on your phone.
All right, Pam, thank you very much for the invitation.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed this conversation. But let me close out by the words of this great African-American philosopher, Teddy Pendergrass, who said, "Wake up, everybody. It's a new day coming, and we need to be acted out to clear the democracy that we need to protect." So I enjoyed it and look forward to talking to all of you again.
Okay, Professor. Let's wave them off. Good night. Good night.